Good evening. I'd like to call to order the January 8th public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission. Welcome, everyone. My name is Zachary Greco, and I'm the chair of the commission. If you're here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural detail, and wall sections. Staff will then present the staff report. We will then ask the public for comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. Please state and spell your name clearly if you're here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the City Ordinance Chapter 27 of the City Zoning Code, the design guidelines, the Secretary of the Interior standards, the Historic Preservation Development Review HPDRC comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibilities. Owners and agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you have not done so already, please silence cell phones. And at this point, I'll ask my fellow commissioners, starting on my left, to introduce themselves.
Susan Klaus-Smith, architect.
Ashley DeCubas, attorney.
Stephen Sutton, architect. I also hold the architectural historian chair.
We are also gathered here today with the staff, Ron Vila, Beverly Jewisak, and then the Senior Assistant City Attorney, Kate Wells. Let's see. At this point, Ron Vila will discuss any continuations.
Good evening and welcome, Commissioners. I'm Ron Vila. I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Under continuations, the first agenda item is ARC 20-18 for the address of 2006 West Deagle Avenue. This request was by the agent to continue to the February 3rd, 2020 public hearing at 6 p.m.
I'd like to make a motion for continuation. Move to grant a continuance in case ARC 20-18 for the property located at 2006 West Deacle Avenue to the February 3rd, 2020 public hearing at 6 p.m.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Ms. Wells, do you wish to address the board?
Thank you, Ron. So now would be the time if any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest on any matter that is scheduled for this evening, or if you have received any ex parte communications, whether they are in writing. Those communications would need to be filed with clerk, or if those communications were verbal, if you could disclose the sum and substance of the communication and who it was with. And I'm seeing we have
None.
But I think
But-
Chairman Greco, you wanted to
Yes,
address
so
something.
I do not have those, however, for case ARC 20-49. I do want to put on the record, the owner, Daniel and Kristen Greco, even though we have the same last name, I'm not related to him, or if I am, I do not know at this point. So,
Thank you for clarifying that.
thank you.
At this time, we're ready for the swear-in. Beverly's going to swear everybody in that wishes to testify. Please stand up and raise your right hand. I do. So the first case this evening that we're going to hear is ARC 20-49. This is for the address of 1820 West Hills Avenue. This is in the Hyde Park Historic District. The original date of construction for the primary house was 1912. It is a non-contributing structure. Although it's a period structure, it's non-contributing. It's been altered in the past. And little by little, with this owner and previous owners, they're bringing it back to more of an original state. The zoning classification is RS60. The certificate of appropriateness this evening is for a new accessory structure. Currently, there is an accessory structure. It's non-contributing, and they have requested for the demolition administratively. There is an addition to the primary structure. They're going to do some renovations to the primary structure and some site improvements as well. Moving through the photo presentation. Property in question is highlighted in the green box that faces hills. North is, you see the north arrow in the right corner. The uniqueness of this parcel is that the alley runs more of a north and south orientation, and is to the west of the subject site. This alley is not a through alley for the other blocks. It's just maintained within these parcels here. This parcel uses the alley. This one will use the alley as well as they come in, and I have some pictures to show. In 1929, there was no construction on the site, and now there is new construction on the site. This address here that faces Richardson comes off of Richardson. They don't use the alley for vehicular access, and neither does this one, and this one comes off of Hills. So just to kind of give you the lay of the land about the activity on this alley. Subject site is in the green box, faces Hills. The alley is indicated here. It runs north and south. And you see the infill property that's here, and then the accessory structure behind it. This is the primary structure. This is the front facade, which faces Hills. As we go to the east elevation, in the past, they had put a shed component over here with an addition. Through the drawings this evening, you'll see that this is going to change, and this will have more of a gable roof line to mimic the historic structure. This is moving to the west elevation. You see the original structure here, and then a series of one-story additions as it telescopes to the rear. This is the alley side, which is here. So this is the property in question over here. As I indicated, the abutting property across the alley to the west, they don't use the alley, they come straight in. As you get a little deeper into the alley, you have the non-contributing accessory structure that's there. This is one of the better alleys as far as the condition of the surface. This is looking at the accessory structure that's going to be removed, and then looking back at the primary house. And then between the accessory structure and the primary structure, you have this condition. Focusing on the alley, this is heading back towards Hills. This is a facade that's going to be altered through this request. Although that this structure is RS60, which is a single-family residential component, the surrounding property has larger structures that are zoned multifamily. You see one here across Hills. You see one here. You see this multifamily here. And then in the background over here, I just wanted to call out some of the massing that's in the immediate vicinity. And to conclude, this is the trim. It's a little foreign to what you usually see as far as the dimensions and the sill. This is the exposure. This is lap siding. And then as you move up to the gable end, you see the overhangs. They're a little more generous, so they've been modified in the past. That concludes the photo presentation. At this time, Mr. Guercio will address the board.
My name is Scott Gersey, spelled G-E-R-E-S-Y. I'm the architect on the project, and I live at 7010 211th Street East, Lakewood Ranch, 33241. Dan Greco, the client, is here, and he's here to answer any questions. The house was built in 1912. The current owners, Kristen and Dan Greco, purchased November 2011. We began, prior to closing, an extensive interior remodel, and construction was completed, and the owners moved in September 2012. Our first meeting on exploring the big picture options was May of 2016, and we have met 6 times with Ron and other staff and HPDRC committees. Currently, the house is a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath with a carport and a detached mother-in-law suite. I'm going to show some similar pictures to what Ron had shown. I'm trying to emphasize here of the 5 parcels that are adjacent to the alley, only ours and the ones immediately behind have garage access off that alley. And I'll show on this alley elevation, I've got some good images of the 2-story detached accessory structure to the south. I went to the property appraiser's website and downloaded this Google image. This is the property. And I wanted to just quickly look at the scale of some of the larger homes. And these are gross square footages that are identified. 4961, 4211, 5044, 4136, 5052, and over on this corner, not on the drawing, or not on the map, is 5137. So there are some large-scale homes immediately surrounding ours. You can also see quite a few 2-story detached structures. This is an enlarged version of the Sanborn map, and I just quickly tried to get the accurate scale. This is the demo plan that I'll show you next. And you can see this is the original home, and part of what's now a carport appears to have been a one-car garage. So most of our demolition includes everything beyond this point here. So this is the demo plan, which includes removing the accessory structures, which is one story and very low, has a lot of water problems. Fencing, which divides the backyard, one generous one-car carports, covered storage, and part of the remodel was laundry room, powder bath, raised epay deck, and this was an addition at some point other than what was original on the Sanborn map, but it's a step down, it's a low ceiling, the windows are smaller scale, and you'll see more of that as we go through the drawings. So our goals are to maintain a large and private rear yard, two-car garage, laundry upstairs near all the bedrooms, larger covered outdoor living, outdoor kitchen, and additional bathroom. So with those goals in mind, how do we move forward to achieve them? Proposed location for the addition. We demo the infield areas with multiple roof forms and different material. We demo the infield area with multiple roof forms and differing materials. We've got metal, we've got shingles, we've got canvas awnings. Here again, Ron showed most of this. You've got a lot going on. A good part of this view is disguised by the oak trees here, and there's a large one in the neighbor's front yard. This is laundry room now, storage, carport, detached accessory structure. Here's a good shot of kind of everything that's going on. You got metal roofing, you got canvas striped awning. Most of the roof slopes are about 4 and 12. So I'm showing you the floor plan because it's important to see how what we're proposing is kind of an undulation. This is really everything that was added on at some point. So we're starting over again right here with a recess, a 4-foot recess. Then we come out and there's a 20-inch cantilever of a stair landing that takes us right to the 7-foot setback. Then we step back 20 inches. Then we step back another 32 inches. Then we've got a space of 8 feet to the detached accessory structure, which is set back 15 feet from the alley property line. Currently, the detached accessory structure is only 11.5 feet. Once again, there's quite an undulation of the facades here. We match that 4-foot recess where we start the addition, and we're coming out over the stair landing, which allows us to do 2 symmetrical bedrooms and arrive at the center line of that 2-story mass. We step that back. We've got a window pattern that relates to the pairs all the way around. And the space now between the end of the 2nd-story addition and the detached structure is 18 feet. The 2nd story over the detached structure is set back 4 feet from the outside width of the garage. Front elevation. We're going to rebuild the left north bedroom, which is here, existing, and we're going to reverse the slope with a perpendicular gable. We're going to match the floor elevation. We're going to match window head heights and match ceiling heights. I've shown the approximate height of a 6-foot fence that we're going to relocate. There's the property line. On the right side, the only thing you'll see is you've got the recessed side entry, and then this stair landing projects out to the 7-foot setback. Now, we'll probably spend quite a bit of time on this elevation. This is the alley elevation. The large oak tree that's on the property is approximately here. Now, I've tried to render completely only the addition. I haven't put the gray color on the existing, but I have highlighted the windows. Okay, we start the transition with the recessed entry that's 4 feet back. Covered side entry, as it currently exists also. It's right here, we've got the recessed entry, but this is a little bit more generous. We also set back the 2nd story 4 feet so that this gable end is still the most prominent part of this elevation. This is laundry room, which explains, there's a counter immediately underneath those windows, which explains the height of those windows, or the fact that they're more square than vertical. And we introduced knee braces here that give it kind of a human scale element, which we repeat farther down as kind of an arbor that projects out about a foot to break up the 2-story facade here. So this projecting stair landing is coming at you 20 inches, and one more step here at the end, and we transition down to a 1-story roof before the space, which has a breezeway connection near the back of the space, and then the 1.5-story garage starts. So as a composition, you've got the most prominent gable here, you've got what we feel is an interesting facade here, and it transitions and gradates and comes back up with a minor gable here, and then kind of ends the composition. And we hold that 5 feet from the rear property line, which is consistent with where it's at right now. And once again, this is set back 4 feet farther than the existing accessory structure. I physically measured the neighbor's detached structure. It's 23 feet away from the property line. It's approximately 26 feet high. And I felt that was important to show kind of the massing that's adjacent to what we're doing, and I think this is a very acceptable 1.5-story accessory structure compared to this one. We repeat coach lights, and I'll show you a picture. We repeat them at the side entry here, one on each side of the garage front, and also in line in this courtyard area. I want to show 3 pictures of the neighbor's accessory structure. Now, we do have a window facing down, and you'll see that from the backyard also. In the middle of the backyard, this is what you see looking over the existing accessory structure. I didn't feel the need to render this completely, but there's a lot of sins going on the back elevation. We've got this facade of the back of that playroom has a patch area of 6-inch horizontal siding. Then we've got the 5 divided by 2 waterfall novelty siding. You've got this rake that is sticking out about 2 feet over what appears to be a concession stand. Forgive me, Dan. And you've got the striped canvas awning. So, the proposed elevation, this is where the 6-foot-high fence occurs. We've repeated the pairs of windows here, which we feel is better than what was there. The new roof slope direction here is a half gable. Roofing materials and slopes all match. And these 2 transom windows, this one gets swallowed up by this new gable end where we repeat that gable end detail. This is the existing one. This high transom window, which is into the master bath, now makes a little bit more sense because this roof is rising up underneath it. We feel it's important that, to be sensitive to the neighbors, no windows would occur on this back elevation, which is 5 feet away, 9 feet away from the neighbor's fence, looking down into their rear yard, both from the garage and from the 2nd-story loft space. This is the elevation in the backyard. What was existing was the lower floor, the lower windows, rafter tails exposed only here on the entire project. You've got metal roofing, and then back here you've got that another canvas awning. So we feel the improvements are, we're now matching the floor elevation with this playroom, which is really rebuilt in the same spot with a gable, perpendicular gable, coming at you instead of facing the front. Better matching window sizes here compared to these. And we feel like the accessory structure is kind of an integral part of the whole composition compared to what it used to be. And we're gonna relocate. There's a fence coming off right here. We're gonna move that to the front and it'll conceal these mechanical units, and I'll show you pictures of that. There's also a gas meter there. So site improvements, new fence utility, trash area with the gate. So in between now, we've got new fencing that occurs here. The existing fence is here. We're moving it to here. We're continuing that wood fence there. The fence and gate reoccur here, which creates a little courtyard for new mechanical and trash in that courtyard between the two structures, and a gate wood fence here. So you got fenced area all around here. We're also doing an outdoor kitchen in this area. Which occurs here. Just an extension of the deck. The roof overhang is here, so that's uncovered area. We've got a grill and sink all kind of open to the backyard. The rehabilitation of the primary structure. In 2012, we had new roofing and exterior painting occurred. Stem wall. What we have is, I'll show you some pictures. We've got some brick piers, we've got some block piers, we've got some precast piers. All of those are covered by a white plastic lattice, completely on the outside of them. We're proposing to re-express those, clean up the brick that's there, put a matching thin brick veneer over the block ones that are there to keep them as flush as possible, and then repeat the red brick veneer on new concrete block piers where we got the new addition. Here's one of those piers at the front corner of the deck that you can see the brick, you can see the red. And here is a very similar product. You can see the cut face on it. And in most cases, all of that is painted white and gets covered up. Fencing. Front left side of the house, this is the one-story addition. You can see the mechanical units. Closer view. We're going to pull this fence forward to this spot here, which is behind the tree, and it hits that corner of the house approximately there behind the downspout. There's the meter. Details. Our design detail vocabulary includes 4 and 12 slopes, flatter at the front porches with shingle, roofing. Typical overhang. This is near the front porch. It's a square edge, tongue and groove as I can best tell. in that location. Up high, here it is, square edge again. Up high, it's kind of a reverse direction on the rake. And I think at some point, one of the remodels, this is now a beadboard panel, a beadboard, painted wood beadboard here at the back porch, and there's the canvas awning. All of that goes away. Our siding is 5 inches, and in this example, they call it a double OG novelty Boston Clinker waterfall. Here's another dimensioned manufacturer's cut of it. Here's another one. But you see quite a bit of that in the immediate area. Ron and I picked a lot of the same pictures. I went back and measured this, and it's a little bit more than subtle, but the top measures about, this is just one example of a window on the side of the house. 27 inches here, 38 here, so our intention would be to match those. Whether or not my elevations reflect that, then this is our intent. Windows, Colby, wood. This is an exterior wood product that's got a Kynar 2 finish on it. Front door, very nice, dark stained wood, 2 panel, 6 light front door. The existing side door now is that, and on that elevation, our intention is to the new side door would be a natural wood stained 2 panel, 1 light door also. Coach lights that are on the front, this is what we would repeat in those 4 locations. Garage door. Canyon Ridge, it's an aluminum door with a composite grain trim on it. And I'm showing 6 panels with I'm showing 6 panels with 2 lights, with 3 lights each. Or this look is 2 columns, 2 panels. It's a little squattier look, and we're prepared to go either way. This would be a more costly door. Obviously, it kind of extends it a little more vertically. So, details. There is the typical overhang we're proposing trim here. There's the waterfall siding, beadboard soffit, fascia. Where we've got overhangs, 2nd-story overhangs over covered walkways. We do a skirt board trim, all painted white. Outside corners with 2 bys, so the minimum projection where you've got lap siding is 3/4 of an inch. An interior 2x2. Here's the window section detail where we've got 5.5 inch trim underneath and an extended nosing, 5.5 inches up top, and just a metal flashing over top. This is the most consistent detail on the house. And casing trim is 2x6. Corbels. We're doing this with a 4x4 main leg and 2x4 knee braces sandwiched on each side with a 4x8 corbel here and two 2x8s atop. I am finished, I think, and ready for questions.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Staff's finding that this project is consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines with the previous plans that were submitted. There were some modifications made between the submission date and today's public hearing. As Scott alluded to, we met many times to have these drawings consistent with our criteria. As we go to page 3 of the staff report, I wanted just to address some of our earlier concerns. They're reflected on the bullet items. On the original plans, there was no dimension on the alley side where the addition was, and we had some concerns that there might be the need for a variance. After further review, there is no need for a variance. This whole project is moving forward with no variance request. Also on that exposure to the alley side, we worked with the agent to break up that massing. If that was one monolithic facade, it would not meet our criteria because the massing would not be broken up in a pattern that's consistent with our criteria. So with him pulling and pushing, breaks down that massing, and staff feels that this is consistent as presented. We asked him, it was a complicated request, so the additional drawings really aid in the presentation, and so you can understand exactly what he's requesting this evening. On the rear elevation for the accessory structure, we always have that dilemma, privacy versus compatibility with the implementation of windows, and the second story, how you can see into the neighbor's yard. Staff's position is that the windows were very important for ventilation. You know, a lot of these houses were prior to air conditioning coming on board. So the solids and the voids in these structures are very important to break up the massing. He did provide additional wall sections to describe the request this evening. On the interior side, his initial request, and I don't know if he went through it or not, showed sliders. Sliders are not an appropriate selection. I don't know if he's made the modification. I think he's noted it, but that needs to be changed on the plans. And also the windows, the proportions of the windows, he showed some pictures. It's more of a disproportionate top sash versus the bottom sash, and his drawings don't reflect that. I think the intentions are to match what the house has. So the drawings would have to change to reflect that as well. He did mention that the garage doors, there's a couple selections, so as you go through your discussion, you can narrow down the scope of that. And then also the height of the accessory structure. It is going through the design exception process. So land development will comment on that with preservation lending a hand on that to show the compatibility. What we're looking for is 22.5 feet or less. That addresses all the concerns that I have on the staff report, and I'm here to answer any questions as well.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing to any public comment. Seeing and hearing none, the commissioners will now ask questions starting on my right.
Sir, if you please, I'd like you to refer to your site plan. I have two concerns that I'd like to have addressed at this point in time. You have described quite clearly your intentions and what you're planning on doing with the fence and for its related other locations, fence and gates. Do you have any details as to exactly what this is going to look like outside of, I'm assuming, is being a match of an existing?
Yeah, I don't have any details. It's a shadow box now. That would be our intention.
The other question I have is respecting your pavements. I note not a change, but an expansion of existing pavements from the existing site plan to the new. I also see what appears to be, or at least by your rendering, an expansion of brick sidewalks, brick pavements, and a concrete apron for your new garage. Can you walk us through your intention for these pavements and how they relate to the existing?
Yeah, let me start by saying I rendered the existing roof plan only to make a point, which I'm going to get to at my closing. But right now, this is Chicago brick paver sidewalk here. This is all Chicago brick pavers here. And this becomes asphalt to here. So basically, this is all paved now. So in the end, we've got the same Chicago brick sidewalk, which we extend here. The steps, the new steps coming down out of this side entry are Chicago brick to that walkway. Then a minor walkway continues to this area, which is in the courtyard, and then a concrete apron. You know, we've discussed the right material for this and the abuse that this alley gets with the trash trucks. I mean, they just spent a lot of money on that alley.
So am I to understand that you'll be salvaging a lot of this existing Chicago brick for reuse in other locations on the site?
That sounds wonderful, yes.
Is that your intent, or is that something we should bring to the table?
Yeah, we may have to sell some of it for. Sure, yeah. I mean, I've got some pretty good pictures. I can show you the amount that's there now. if
Well,
can
you have
see.
the new walkways,
Yeah.
and then you're augmenting this, I guess, with the apron and driveway with a colored dimensional concrete brick block surface, or is this going to be a monolithic concrete surface?
That's to be determined.
To be determined.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We're open for suggestions. You know, I'd like to see at least the same brick border if it's a concrete apron.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. May we go to the front elevation? If the camera could zoom down a little bit so we can see the bottom rendering. Thank you. So the window to the left on the new addition, is there a reason why it's positioned where it is and maybe not dropped down to be symmetrical with the other windows in the existing home?
That it's a single window because it's a bathroom and there is, I believe, a shower here. I think the toilet is on the opposite wall. That probably should be a matching head height, and I don't know why it's not.
Okay. And then, can you walk us through your thoughts of the portion of the addition to the right, and why did you not pull out the first floor to match the second floor? Why did you pull that back? I'm just curious.
Can I refer to this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I have a folder full of schematic sketches and virtual model images studying this, and that probably represents half of what I actually did. And we did explore a two-story form here. We weren't trying to squeeze as close to the setback as we could. And I mean, these push and shoves probably started out at 4 feet and then became 2 feet and then it became a little bit less. So that's just that little 20 inches really made a big difference at your arrival point upstairs. And I think it's kind of an interesting projection personally.
Okay. And then while we're actually, this is another elevation I had some questions about. I may have missed it. You may have said it. The brackets, what kind of material are those? Are those
They're
wood or metal?
Painted wood.
Painted wood?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then, you answered my question about the stairs. And I would just list a preference as not a question really, but I do like your first doors with the windows, but we can discuss that as a board later. On the left elevation, so Ron mentioned this, the doors. Did you have a sample of those doors that were sliding at one point, but maybe no longer?
Well, I don't. I'll show you my markup on the plan. Here are those doors. That's four single light panels, and that is a man cave. And
Delightful.
and the idea is that it's an indoor-outdoor space.
It's versatile.
I told you Dan is here to speak, so he's welcome to step in.
Cave preservation.
So our goal is to have this opening, the 16-foot opening, clear and free of doors and door swings. So I've essentially got a telescoping door that when they're all closed, they're all in the same plane.
Okay.
Okay. I can't tell you what manufacturer it will be, but it's a single light panel.
Okay. And
Can I ask one question on that real quick?
yeah.
Besides sliding doors, have you looked at a system like an accordion where it looks like 4 doors?
Yeah, that's possible, getting that to stack. There's not a good spot. Here's stairs coming down, so stacking it here is in the way. Stacking it there is kind of dangerous. Maybe stacking it here would be okay. I got to believe that an accordion door is going to be more expensive than a sliding door that ends up in the same plane.
Okay.
To your accessory structure, is there a reason other than privacy to not have windows that face the adjacent property?
Let me start with the ground floor. I'm glad you asked that question because I think there is. It's not an oversized garage. I mean, it's 24 feet square, and I showed, standard size vehicles, and we're trying to get a 3-foot wide stair going up. This seemed like a logical spot for a window facing the backyard. As you start to go up the stair, you get a quick peek in the backyard. The only remaining corner of the garage for storage is here, and it's going to be jam-packed full. So I think we'd like to give up on a window there because it's just going to get really disgusting. The second story, it's one space with the stair aisle or whatever. So if this is conditioned space, these windows here will look out these windows. We got a window here, so we're really encouraging the views to our backyard, which is why I've highlighted those arrows. We've got a pair of windows here, a window here, a pair of windows there. The only place we don't have windows is here. Is there a couch wall? Is there a TV wall? That's probably a couch wall or a bed wall.
And do you have the photos of the original accessory structure that you could put up again, if you don't
Yes.
mind?
You want to see the ones with the windows?
Yeah. That one. And did it have windows on each side or no?
It does.
Okay.
Ron, if you can find it quicker than I can. I'm not sure I have that picture. I don't think I have that picture, but I can show you. Let me show you the demo plan.
It's on the envelope.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, there are two probably single hung windows there.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all the questions I have for right now.
I think you've answered all my questions. Those windows and same as far as the garage door is concerned. I like that first one with the 3 lights. That's it.
I have a few questions. First goes to precedents. So there's a couple. The corbels and the bracketing are not consistent with the primary structure itself and in the existing conditions. And I was just wondering if you have a series of precedents, case studies that show any in the district that are consistent with the vernacular frame style that this home is in terms of those, as well as the projected condition for the portion of the stair for the new addition. Both of those elements seem very foreign to this project. So if you have that case story precedent study, it would be great if you could present that.
I don't have one today. I would like to look, if necessary. I can show you some examples of some brackets on some other images, if that would be helpful.
Only if they're
Okay.
consistent in the district
No,
itself.
no.
Okay. And then in terms of the garage, the accessory structure for the garage itself, can you go over again why it was necessary in your mind? I mean, I understand the height restriction, but there were other ways to meet the height restriction potentially without rotating the second story 90 degrees so that you had a gable on the bottom and a gable on the top, but in 90-degree relationship to one another. So if you could talk about that other than the height restriction, did you look at other ways to sort of have that meet that height restriction requirement, but maybe give it a more a massing that was consistent from the first floor to the second floor?
And you're talking about just this?
The shift in the 90 degree
Yeah.
in the plan, yeah.
I believe we did, I think one of the first ones we tried was parallel, but small, step back. To me, this has a face to it, and I think the design team of 4 were all choosing that one. Felt like it was friendlier, and it's a better view, to be honest.
What is across the alley from this exactly? Isn't there another property?
Yes, yes.
So what's the view?
Well, sky versus the end of the house. You know,
Would you mind showing an image of the neighbor across
Yeah.
the alley there? Thank you.
I think it's a,
I mean, I just think if we're talking about views to the other neighbor and this is now facing a second neighbor, maybe the argument isn't strong enough. Maybe if you showed the massing study, yes. So you're potentially looking over into the neighbor's open yard and then into rooms beyond.
yeah. So the alley's 10 feet, the setback's 15, so 25, and then the setback of the second story is 4,
Right,
so
okay. All right, and then,
29.
I just wanted to ask one other question in regards to the alley elevation. Again, it goes to the existing gable end. And your discussion about pushing back on the addition the 4 feet at the second story, but not at the first story. I would assume that in all the iterations, you did look at an iteration that retained that gable end side trim conditioned all the way to the ground. Is that true? And if so, really try to understand why the ground floor couldn't continue to push back a little bit and allow that corner to exist to the, in the new rendering.
You're talking about here?
No, the existing. I think it's where, can you go back to the elevation? I'm sorry, I think it's where your steps are now, where your foyer is. Where your gable end, yes. So where your gable end corner board is, right there, where that shed comes in, that board, that vertical board, in the
The trim.
new rendering,
Yeah.
yeah, it disappears because you
Oh.
bring the new addition flush.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this, part of the remodel in 2012 was a kitchen remodel, and the kitchen counter is continuous here, so I can't change that.
And you were retaining that in the project? I'm sorry, can you go back to
Yes.
the plan?
Yeah.
I don't tend to look
Right
too much
here.
at the interiors when we're presented all of the conditions
see that-
because we're not really,
That second story gable is, the edge of it is there.
okay.
And this was part of the 2012 project, which is very nice.
All right, okay, that makes more sense now.
Yeah.
That's it from,
I didn't think the trim, maintaining the trim was important there.
okay, that's it for my
And
questions.
maybe a tall tree or something there would.
That's it for my questions and comments right now. Thank you.
I also have a couple questions for you. So the proposed southwest or right alley elevation that's up on the board right now. I have a question. So the landscaping that we're showing on this, that is on the new two-story addition, is that to hide the fact that there's no windows on that wall?
Yeah, there's about 3 or 4 foot wide planter there,
So was there
adjacent to the building, so it's probably a ligustrum or something hedge.
Was
So-
there discussions at any point to include more windows along that first floor of the new two-story addition
Well,
to
there's
break
a
it
lot of
up?
discussion, yeah. That's it's man cave, it's football, it's baseball, I guess it's a private space for TV viewing, so someone walking by the alley and having a shot in it's really not what they were after.
Okay.
But we are open for adjustments. Let me show you the plan again of that space. And even this step is difficult in the room, but we felt like it was helpful in the transition to kind of open this up versus completing that corner. And it's where it changes from a 2-story gable to a 1-story gable.
I'm kind of asking in terms of if you look at a majority of the exterior perimeter of the house, there's pretty nice breakup of windows or doors. And then we do get to this corner, and I understand the area that's between kind of the breezeway and the garage of not necessarily needing windows there. But on that one side, it is almost, I would assume 20 to 40 feet at least of just solid wall besides that little window up at the top. So just kind of a question on that.
Yeah, one of the first things we explored was making a living wall, but that's still kind of a landscape feature that's temporary.
So I'm not sure if this next question is just the way the drawings are produced, the rendering piece, but the front elevation, this elevation, most of them do have this foundation enclosure. So you're seeing the brick piers with the lattice or screen piece under it. I think if we go to the southeast elevation, portion of the building or the new house loses that foundation. So you'll notice the little wall for the outdoor kitchen I understand why it's not on the accessory structure, but if you go back to the board that's right behind this one, sorry. Yes, this one, the northeast. You'll notice on the left side by where those either sliding doors, that portion of that little wall, the man cave area, it looks like it's missing there. Is the intention to have that enclosure piece wrap all the way around, or was that intentionally left off?
This here,
Farther to the left, so right on this side. 'Cause it
This-
looks,
this is a brick wall surrounding the outdoor kitchen.
I understand that. Then
Yeah.
you have your 4
The
sliding
man cave
doors.
is 18 inches down.
Okay. So if we go then to the southeast elevation that you just had up, that same man cave area has the piers. You can sort of see it on the bottom proposed, on that one back corner right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it does also have it on the alley side. Where does that stop? That pier. So it may need to be something you kind of show on the plan if it's easier. But at some point here, it disappears.
Yeah.
Because on this one, it shows that it's now the same height.
I have 5 wall sections that I didn't get to. I can show you that one and in general what's going to happen there. But this is a block wall for story. And
Okay.
this is a recess that's created
And
to
okay.
appear to be a foundation vent in this area.
my biggest question is, it appears that it does not wrap around the entire house.
Right.
So the question is that intentional for a reason, or what is the intentions? And then in some elevations, that foundation line that wraps all the way around is at different heights.
That detail probably disappears when you get behind this fence, somewhere back in here. Probably right there.
Okay. Next question that I have for you, we can stay on this one for now. So there is a portion of the second floor that sits over this kind of open, covered rear porch. It looks like from here, I'm assuming that tiny little square up at the top is a column. Is that am I reading that correctly?
Yeah,
there.
that's a column supporting the covered porch. Column, column, column.
Okay. Is that column detail going to match the
Yes.
columns that are in the front?
They are, it's a 1x8 wrapped square in all cases on the front, and that's what we intend to do back here.
Okay. And then you may need to go to the rear elevation that could see that from elevation. What's your intentions for the beam going over that?
We do have the siding. Here's the beam with the skirt board trim detail and then the siding above it.
Okay.
But that can be a vaulted space in there.
All right. And then the only other question that I have that has not been answered yet is the outdoor kitchen wall. So you said it's in a exposed brick wall up to what looks like 6 feet tall, so right at fence height.
Maybe a little bit less, yeah.
Okay, and then is it just a brick cap on that as well, or?
Yes, brick cap on top.
Okay,
I mean, it could be an 8-inch brick wall, solid brick.
and then.
And
is
the
it-
idea is to screen, we're going to have built-in cabinetry behind it.
Okay. I have no further questions at this point. Any additional comments or questions for the applicant before we close the hearing?
I have one additional question, sir. Respecting your roofing materials, is it your intention with this extensive addition to match existing roofing materials, or are you going to be re-roofing this entire structure?
That roof is new in 2012. It's, I mean, the color-wise, it works with the color that's there now, and we're really, here's existing that remains, so we're just overlaying a little bit of that, so I guess we would probably tend to match it.
That'd be for the main structure as well as for the accessory?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
And then I guess I have one more comment. You did mention that you had wall sections that you did not get to. Would you like to present those?
Yeah, quickly, yeah. Just, so here's the locations of them. I've got one through the existing wall here, one through the side porch entry here, two through the breezeway, and one through the accessory structure. Existing, approximately 30 inches out of the ground, floor to ceiling is 9-10, 2x floor framing, 8-7 second story, 4 and 12 slope, about a 20-inch overhang. Yeah, I'm sorry, the overhang is actually sloped. Here's through the side entry. We've got the beadboard soffit, 4 and 12, beam wrapped, corbel, and we're matching this elevation obviously, and we're going 8-7 to match what's existing upstairs. So the bearing height is the same. Here we've got the brick on concrete slab. That's really the side elevation completely of that recess, and the stair landing. The stair landing is coming up right to here. So these windows give you a nice view down the alley and towards the front street. This is through the man cave, and this is where we're playing the game to fake the recessed crawl space detail. It's the back area where we've got the wrapped beam, siding, 4 and 12. And there's the bracket. And this is the breezeway. Through the breezeway, 7 foot out to out. We've got those brackets, the knee braces there and there, and this roof is independent of this one and just kind of plugs into the side wall. There's another window up here you see. And cutting through and looking the other direction through the breezeway, this is the walk under past the man cave and into the back of the house. And this is an extension of this roof plane over the 1-story man cave portion. And lastly, accessory structure, we got a 10-foot garage ceiling height. And we've got only an 8-foot high space above it. And we're set back 4 feet in from the front of the garage for the 2nd story.
Could you go to your section, I think it's labeled P2. Your bracket detail that says A1311. See the brackets, and then it looks like there's wood that goes above it.
Yes.
What is that holding?
These here?
Yes.
It's not holding, it's a decorative horizontal line is what it is here. To give some shadow on the wall.
Okay. Are there any other additional questions? All right. If not, all right, at this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I guess what I wanted to say was, this, if you glance at the site plan, the existing and the new, they're really not that different. This is a 2,000 square foot addition, but the change in impervious surface with this scheme versus the original is 7%, the difference of 769 square feet. And in the grand scheme of things, we achieve a lot of square footage, rebuilding the usable space in the accessory structure, rebuilding it in a more efficient way here. We maintain our large backyard, and we feel like we've achieved our goals and been sensitive to the neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we will close the public hearing, and the commissioners will discuss the case. Would anyone like to start?
Okay,
You can go ahead.
let me start with a couple comments. First two are going to be of a very personal opinion. They're going to be line items that I know other people are going to have some major comments on. The garage facing the alleyway. I personally like what it looks like as presented on the drawings. I believe that that upper level gable that's facing you has a certain bookend quality to it with respect to the gable that's facing the alleyway from the main original building. I like the way it kind of balances out the whole composition on the scheme of things as you walk down the entire side of this site. To me, I think it has merits as a good fit with that respect. The other part I would like to make a comment on are your architectural brackets that we see along the alleyway side. I understand how they have a certain working relationship with the brackets you're intending to use at your entrances, at your, if you will, your entrance pathway from the alley into the backyard. I can also understand how they came about as a certain license with respect to a certain craftsman detail, not terribly typical, but to an advantage here of how you're using them to break up this elevation that we see here. I don't have an objection to them. As a matter of fact, I could see myself, hanging some creeping vine over them, whether it be flame or a wisteria or something like that. There's not a whole lot of room here, if you will, in this side yard between what is the face of the building and what is the actual line of the alley. And if you're going to think about the alley as being a very public place, perhaps we don't want to have a whole lot of fenestration between the two of them for privacy purposes. But to break up a major elevation like this so that it can have smaller pieces is to the advantage of the composition, and I think you're working towards this general direction. Smaller pieces, the garage doors. I personally like this, the doors that have the triple pane with the upper glass lights. I like the scale of those. I like the carriage house look of those, and I think that fits well with the existing building as well too. Now, with respect to windows on the garage, I'm going to let my compatriots talk to you about that. I'm sure that's going to be addressed. I appreciate to some degree how the fenestration is trying to respect, to the extent possible, the privacy of your neighbors. And I think that that would be an advantage in that respect. But we don't follow that religiously. You know, we do that for our immediate neighbor to the south, but across the alley, we've got windows. So it's kind of a hard thing to justify at this point in time. My other bugaboo, your pavements. We have some very generous brick pavement for the existing building. We have some material that we'll be salvaging for use elsewhere, and I think that we should use those pavements judiciously, either in whole or in detail as to where they need to be going. I could see a limited amount of this going in a certain direction, but I would think that some sort of brick-like detailing in whole or in part should exist wherever you're doing new hard pavement, whether it's your driveway, your apron, interior walkways, whatever is necessary, that there should be something related to those new pavements to the existing in some fashion. You know, I could see how you do a ribbon detail on the side, or ribbon driveway details for your tire patterns, and the rest of it be more prosaic, concrete, or a detailed concrete, a stamped concrete. It could be any one of a number of different things. But I think there needs to be a scheme of pavement detail that ties this ground plane all together, so that, yes, this is a new addition, but it continues even on that level to being respectful to what's there in the first place. I'm done for the moment.
So I'm not comfortable with leaving the sliders on the left elevation without making that some sort of condition for staff to review, but I'm confident staff can handle that. For the head height of the front elevation window, that does bother me because it's not symmetrical, so if possible, if that could move down, depending on what my fellow board members think about that. Also, the front elevation, the pop out of the addition seems a little odd to me, and I wanted to ask Ron if that occurs within the historic district, if that's something that's common. Oh, can I not ask Ron?
I have to open.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So I can continue and we can address that issue later. Okay. Garage doors, I concur. I like the windows. The alley's going to be active. I do like the orientation of the accessory structure as you have it designed, though. I think that activates the alley even more than the other position. Accessory structure, a window on the rear, I think that's a must-have just because the historic accessory structure had that, and I think it will really add to the structure itself. And I understand the side with the storage. I don't think that's necessary because you have other windows on the other sides. Driveway materials, I concur. If there's ability to make it look more historic, that would be fantastic. On the alley facade with the lack of windows, I totally agree with you. And the landscaping did really help. So I would be okay if we made some sort of landscaping requirement. I know landscaping can go away with time, so I would like to discuss that and want your opinions on that as well. So that's all I had. Thank you.
I agree with the head height of the window. On that side, I think it does need to come down. And also with the landscaping that you just brought up, I think that's a good idea. Or maybe they could add one or two of those smaller windows on that wall. As far as the windows on the accessory structure, I'm okay with it. I understand the functionality. They have windows on every other side. I do like the orientation of it as well. I think it looks really nice. Same with the garage door. I do like that 3-light, the first one, the first option. And I believe that's it.
So I have a few things. Regarding site, I don't think any of us have an issue with the intention to basically replace what is already existing in terms of the composition and the usage of the site. I think we all agree that you're pretty consistently matching what is already there in terms of coverage of the site. I do think in terms of the materials for the pavement, for the most part, I felt that the pavement plan was a better solution than what is currently there, in that the concrete ribbon, yes, it could be detailed in a way that brings about more historic references. Because this is directly off an alleyway rather than a side street or a front street, I think there is some variations that you'll find in the district that could give you some cues as to how to do that. But I really question having to do a ribbon drive, especially since this is such a short run of throat for that garage entry from the alley itself, that I question that recommendation. Otherwise, I feel that the fact that you are pulling back on the amount of brick pavers between that side entry to the second accessory structure at the rear of the lot is really a much better solution for both the owner and for anyone who might use that alleyway. So I commend you on addressing that and trying to get away from just a full frontal or side condition of just asphalt. So site-wise, I think it's going in the right direction. In terms of the architecture, there are certain things that we have to look for. We have to look at massing and building form. I do think that there are certain components that don't help in terms of the rhythm and the massing and the forms. I do feel that the existing gable end needs to be reviewed again, and think about allowing that side trim to come all the way down to the ground as it does currently. I understand that the existing addition is not going to go away and it's pretty much flush, but that trim board is there. And a gable end has it has to read a certain way, and with the loss of that half of the trim board there, the read of that gable end isn't true to its existing condition more, and not even its historic condition, right? So the loss of that gable end feature to me is a big deal when we're talking about historic continuity or addressing that. The other is the projection at the stair. Yes, there are precedents even in this district. However, this house itself, and until a case story is presented, a precedent study is presented with contributing and non-contributing structures in the vicinity of this property, from my view of what was presented today, it's very hard for me to feel like it belongs here on this lot and in this particular vicinity. There are no projections on the existing home, so it's a very foreign move for me. That also is in terms of the brackets / corbels as well as the move to bring that trellis, that minimal trellis element in on the alley side. And I understand why you would want to make that move. However, there aren't a lot of windows under that, so the idea of it providing shade and shadow and that sort of thing, it's a little shaky there. I agree that the experience of the alley side, even though this is not a side street, the alleys in Hyde Park tend to be very active. And there are a lot of things I love about this project. I think the fact that you are trying to make the experience, not only with the pavers, but the idea of landscape and how you treat that whole side as an experience, not just for yourself, but for potentially your neighbors and the larger community, is commendable. But I do think the idea of rhythm of windows, the solid, the void experience that we have architecturally is important. And I understand your reasoning for a man cave, but there's so many different ways to deal with that from your perspective as an interiors condition that you can do relatively inexpensively. So I do think we need to recommend that they revisit the idea of window placements at the alley side. At the front, I agree with the head alignment. And I think your agent here tonight said the same thing. He realized that maybe that needed to be reviewed. There was another window that I forgot to bring up, but on that same elevation in the addition at the second floor, there's a window that seems to be a little odd in its proportioning. It seemed a little long in regards to the rest of the windows throughout the rest of the project. So that would be another one that I'd ask them to review. Other than that, the sliders, they're just so foreign. Even with them being a condition at the rear of the home, they're just so foreign to the idea of the historic content. And then the garage, we talked a little bit about that. Again, without a case study, precedent study presented tonight, it really that the inconsistency of the massing. This is not a bungalow home. If it was a bungalow home, I could buy into it, but it's not. So with all the gable moves that they are doing to suddenly do a 90-degree turn at the second floor, really, it's just so foreign to the project. As to views to which neighbor's yard, I do think the views to the alley are more appreciative to the idea that we have neighbors and we want to be kind to our neighbors. I don't think that they need to add more windows to the south. I agree that they've made more than enough accommodations for light in, and traditionally in a gable end you're going to see the window placement at the gable end, not on the sidewalls for the most part. So I agree with that move. I just have issues with the massive reform. And I think that's pretty much it for me. Garage doors, I think either one's historically correct, but I prefer the first. But that's a personal choice.
So without kind of repeating the same kind of comments that have been stated, my biggest concern, and I think it's been stated again, is the bump out for the stair. Similar to what you're stating, I'm not seeing anything that was presented today to show that that's a condition within the historic district near this house to match. It also, from the front elevation, if you kind of look at where the roof line, where that pitch sits, as it gets pulled out, that roof gets a little bit higher, so then you can start to see that top of that roof from the front of the house, even though we're looking at it straight on. And then also breaking that wall up with a little bit more windows. I think overall, kind of from the new door down along the alley just needs to get revisited. I guess the question I want to ask the fellow commissioners is, do we feel comfortable enough with the way it was presented today to continue and let them move forward on a staff level, or do we feel we need to see precedents or some sort of reference to allow or to agree that this is a historically accurate design?
Well, I think the projection's a really big deal. So to not have that accessible tonight. I have concerns over like the sliding doors and little stuff. Yeah, we can leave to staff, but I would say with the list that we have right now, it's a bit much. Not only the projections, but even the small things that really add to it, like what you were saying about the brackets, that whole wall of windows. That's a big task. So my preference would be that they come back with information to support why they're doing what they're doing.
I would agree.
I would agree as well, too. The applicant, the owner, as well as their advocate brought an awful lot to the table tonight. And we've brought a fair share of our own concerns to the table as well. I think it would be prudent for this project for continuation so that they can do their due diligence, case study work, in district, out district if necessary, detailed coordination, as we've discussed a number of different things regarding doors, windows, brackets, landscaping, you name it, and bring back a, if you will, a more detailed, if you will, or a more coordinated package for review with respect to the historic nature of this building, and if you will, the push you're making personally for a very, very, although contemporary, but still very compatible addition to this historic building. So I'm thinking that perhaps that continuation would be very prudent for everyone involved.
I agree.
Does council have any comment on that?
I apologize, I didn't hear everything you were saying. Ron and I were looking at the schedule, moving forward and the amount of time that the applicant would need if this was continued with the applicant's agreement to either February 3rd or we'd be looking at March 2nd, just depending on how much time they need, because the deadline for the February 3rd meeting is January 17th, and today's the 8th, so. Yeah. Otherwise, the deadline for the March 2nd meeting is February 14th.
Do we ask the applicant if they have a preference?
Or if they
Take a
want
minute.
an up or down vote.
They're too deep into it for that. Ain't flying out with it up.
So after discussion with the owner and the agent, they're feeling that the time constraints are too tight to move to the February 3rd public hearing cycle. So if the board could continue it to the March 2nd, 2020 public hearing at 6. And as you craft your motion, if you could be concise with some recommendations and directions. I know he heard the discussion going on here, but I believe there was a scrivener taking some additional notes, and if you could put that into your motion. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if the applicant is open to the continuance, if they could just confirm that on the record, I would appreciate it.
Just want to confirm for the record, the applicant and the owner are acceptable with the continuation for the case to the March 2nd public hearing, correct?
Yes.
I can make a motion for continuation, move to grant a continuance in case ARC 2049 for the property located at 1820 West Hills Avenue to the March 2nd, 2020 public hearing at 6 p.m. In order for the applicant to review some of the comments discussed here today, including but not limited to the sliding doors, head height of 2 windows in the front elevation, the right addition projection, historic precedence with that, the garage doors with the windows, accessory structure, the precedence on the orientation, I guess, driveway material, brackets, and the facade along the alley, potentially adding more windows.
That's pretty much it. I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff for Historic Preservation. Moving to the next case is ARC 20-65 for the address of 405 East Ottawa Avenue. The primary structure is a contributing structure. The zoning is SHRS, which is reflective of the Seminole Heights Historic District. The request in front of you this evening is for new construction for a very modest accessory structure of 288 square feet. Starting with the Sanborn from 1929. The green indicates the property that we're looking at this evening. Ottawa is the frontage street. You do have an alley that runs to the rear and dead ends to this larger parcel in 29. And then as a reference, you have Central Avenue to the east. The orientation of the accessory structure, back in 29, you see the primary structure and then an accessory structure. And the location of this accessory structure indicated here is very similar to the placement that you're going to see this evening. This is the overhead. Sometimes I like to include it. It just shows the dimension of the parcel. It's a slender, but it's narrow, but a deep parcel. This is looking at the contributing structure. That dates back to 1925. The vehicular access is on the west side, the east side, showing more of a traditional apron, the sidewalk, and then the ribbons. Looking at this elevation here, and the termination of the gate. Moving to the west elevation, see the grouping of the windows that are more consistent with the Craftsman style. Just showing some pictures of the primary house here. The paired windows, the lap siding, the tiered gable with the venting, and then the abutting structures. This is a non-contributing structure to the east. This is a contributing structure that abuts to the west. And directly across the street, you have a more of a traditional application here with a shared apron. Obviously, this one's not original with a turf block, but you have the shared apron with the runners that go into the property. This time we'll have the agent address the board.
Hi, my name is Joanne Peck. I am co-owner of a company called Historic Shed. And we are here to present basically a shed. Normally we wouldn't have to come forward if this was under 150 square feet, but because it's over that, then here we are. So before we get too much into the site, I do want to show two things. Number one, there is no active alley behind the house. It may still be officially platted, but it is not there. And basically what we're doing is we're replacing an accessory building that fell into disrepair and it's just going to go away. So we're very similar in size and scale to what was there. As you can see, it's a very long lot. It's 200 feet, and that accessory structure is about midway down. So you don't really see it from the back, and you really don't see it from the front. Fence along both sides. And the existing one is about 2 feet from the property line. We will be moving it into the yard a little more, so there'll be a 5-foot setback on the side instead, just for to be able to meet all the fire eve requirements easily. Simple building. There is still a concrete slab there from the old building that got approval to be demolished. We'll be putting a new wood deck on top of that, tying it down as a traditional shed with earth anchors, wood frame construction. It does have novelty siding or patent 105. We'll be using that on this new building, pine. Trim boards, everything would be smart side. We've been moving away from real wood for a lot of our trim. I have a sample if anybody wants it. Lots of reasons for that, but you don't need to hear all that. Same roof slope as the main house, 4 and 12 slope, and it would have exposed rafter tails. We do full 1-inch by 6-inch board sheathing for all of our roofs, so you would be able to see that, and I'll show you some photos of that. Simple fenestration. It just has the front area. It's going to be kind of a workshop / home office area, and just has a set of French doors, single light. And then on the rear, we'd be putting in a set of batten doors, and that would just be to access for, say, lawnmower storage or, you know, your more traditional shed items. So just to give you an idea of the type of materials and the like, these are, we build our own doors in-house. They're made out of cedar, heavy-duty hinges. I thought I had more examples of that, but you can get an idea of what they look like when they're done. The double set of doors, we do a couple different variations. We haven't really tweaked what style they'd be, but we have some that are a little more mission style. None of them have any windows. They're just straightforward batten doors like this. French doors, we have been moving away from real wood French doors. We have found some fiberglass doors. I don't know if you can see that well enough, and I apologize because it still has tape around the edge, but it has all the same details. It doesn't have that, what's the word I want to use? The windows that have the frame around it that doesn't paint, it's white. We don't have any of that. All the details on this look exactly the same as a wood door once it gets in and gets painted. So it's made by Therma-Tru. And I mentioned board sheathing. This is our standard eaves. This is what we do instead of using any plywood. It's very traditional for an accessory dwelling, or not accessory dwelling, but an accessory building. That utilitarian board sheathing is pretty common. Here's some more examples. You can see it along the eaves. And it's true 1-inch, so you don't see any nails coming through. It gives a nice look. And I believe that's pretty much everything. Oh, we did, they had asked about a vent, and I just happen to have this one for another job, but if you wanted to see any of the detailing on how we would build the vent for this, for both ends, you know, it's got a real sill, and we build them all in-house. Right? And I think that's really all there is. It's a rectangle.
Thank you. Commissioners, the staff finds that this application is consistent with the Seminole Heights Design Guidelines. In working on this project and moving it forward, some of the conditions that were reflected, we work with the other entities, reviewing entities within the city to make sure that the project as is presented to you can go through this process and then be submitted to permitting and receive approval through permitting without too much bounce back and forth. So we were looking at the placement of the structure to make sure that it met fire code, having from the property line 2 foot clear before any overhangs are expressed, which this application does. She did provide photos of the soffit details and the trim. Transportation added a note in here that when there's lower speed limits within the vicinities of local roads, that smaller dimensions, which are consistent with the historic materials for the apron and the throat coming in, are acceptable. So as presented, the 7 foot width with the flares of 3 foot meet transportation's code. And just the last item we have, if you look at the site plan that's up here now, they have the approach to the structure without any fenestration or door on the front. There's a visual corridor in the historic districts that are respected as you come off the primary street, through the apron, down the ribbon drive, and the automobile goes to sleep in the accessory structure. There's no opening there. So we would ask that they either change the opening from the back and put it in the front, or just add another opening in the front to match the one that's expressed already. And that concludes my portion of the presentation.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing to any public comment. Seeing none, the commissioners will then ask questions, starting on my right.
I have no question at this time.
I have a question for the applicant. Was there a reason why you put the doors in the rear versus in the front? And do you have an issue with flipping it?
There is no issue really with flipping it. It just happened to be what the owner had requested.
Okay, great. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
No questions.
Can you show the image of the existing accessory structure again, please? And can you confirm, is that truly the historic structure from 1925 thereabouts? Do we know?
This structure?
Yeah.
I would guess yes, based on the slab that it's been there.
Okay, so can you, I think I know, the door that's on the gable end, that's the end that faces the ribbon drive and the fence that would come in, right? Okay. Do you have, well, I guess that's pretty much it, because it doesn't really matter what the other end is.
Yeah, the best guess is that it's got that rear part that's an addition to it, and it probably was a garage at one time, but it's only 10 feet wide.
Yeah. Okay. Can I see your site plan just really quick? Can we zoom in on the site plan, please? I just kind of want to understand. So the comment by transportation about, and this might be something that staff answers, with the statement that they added about the flare at the apron, there's no intent to replace the driveway, correct? Are they trying to enter into the record a historic condition? Ron, do you know? It just seems like an odd note to make in a project when you're not doing any work on that.
Although this is not part of the request, they're not altering anything here. Transportation usually instills their views on the project, and they just wanted to put that on the record for in the future, if there's any modification to be made, that these are the dimensions that they would be looking for.
Okay.
I also wanted to put on the record, in our historic districts, we have 4 historic districts. We have Hyde Park, Seminole Heights, Tampa Heights, and Ybor City. Hyde Park is the only historic district that categorizes the accessory structures as contributing or non-contributing. You made a good point. This is part of the original fabric, we believe, but none of them are indicated on our maps as contributing, so this
Right.
structure can be removed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it for me. Thank you for answering.
I think to reiterate what some of the commissioners have said, the door on the back side versus the front seems a little bit off. in terms of additional windows or anything placement, I don't think there needs to be any windows, specifically on what is, I'm assuming, the left elevation with that fence there. And then if the rear elevation became the front elevation, then you kind of have the door. So besides that, the only other real question I had is the French doors. Were there any consideration to look at either a door that matched something similar to what is on the existing house, or does it match what's on the house?
No, it was just a matter of function. There's no windows in there, so it basically
Okay.
works as windows.
Okay. I have no additional questions. Oh,
Are you planning to have lighting on the outside of the building?
I believe at some point the owner is planning that, but it's not part of the scope of what we're doing right now.
Okay, so I would suggest a condition for that in the future. Staff can review that.
So if you do flip it around, would you move these French doors? If you flip the rear elevation to the front?
That's something I'd like to talk to the client, but I believe that they probably should be centered if that's the case, because you still are going to be coming in from the house and you'd want the doors.
Okay, but they'd stay on that same side? You might
Yes,
just move them?
yes, definitely.
Okay.
is the owner with you today, or
Yes.
is that something do we want to discuss that today, or do we want to put that as do you prefer to do it later?
Moving the French doors, you mean?
In terms of flipping where the storage with the French doors is to what would be storage 1 and storage 2.
He's already indicated that that would be fine.
Okay. Any additional?
I have an additional question. I don't recall if you actually said what the roofing material would be.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I get ahead of myself, but yeah, it's a dimensional asphalt shingle roof to
And
match.
did you have an image of that? Oh, to match the existing roof?
Yeah, it's on the main house. The same roof.
Okay. I'm sorry, I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions, comments? Okay. The applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I got nothing.
All right. At this point, the public hearing will be closed, and the commissioners can discuss the case if there's anything.
I think just making note of the flip, and I would like to say that the lighting be worked, reviewed with staff as they move forward with the project.
Yeah, I mean,
That's pretty much it.
if it does at all.
Right, right.
And then, what about the comment from traffic department regarding the?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
we
if
did.
I may address that?
Yes.
Anytime the commission is adding conditions to an approval, there has to be a nexus or a relationship between the condition and what is being proposed for approval. And I would submit, as noted by the commissioners, there's a question as to the connection between
Yes.
that note and what is being requested. Without any site improvements that would trigger the need to change the driveway, I would just ask that you consider and talk through whether there's that nexus between the proposed request from transportation and what is before you for approval.
So then I have a follow-up question. It seems to me that whenever transportation comes up and makes these notations, that we automatically just think that they are required. Is that not the case? Especially in this, I would say in this project. That's why I asked the question. There's no scope in this project relevant to that notation.
No relation at all.
So Florida statutes has codified that issue, and it does require that any time there's an application before a local government for approval and the commission or council, as the case may be, is inclined to impose conditions, you have to establish that nexus. So I understand that this may be a standard comment from transportation. However, we really need to look at that request for a note on the site plan versus what is actually being proposed for approval, and is there a connection between the two?
Right, so my viewpoint is that this is a non-issue.
It doesn't need to be a
And not
condition.
necessary as a condition. Yes.
Okay.
Ergo, the initial question.
Yes. All right.
I think we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
No, I've totally lost my train of thought. I can move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawing and documents presented in the public hearing in ARC 2065 for the property located at 405 East Idlewild Avenue with the following conditions: that the structure be flipped so that the doors are facing the front and the gate versus the rear, and lighting must be approved by staff. I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. Thank you.
Commissioners, and the last case is ARC 20-66 for the address of 5106 North Branch Avenue. This is also in the Seminole Heights Historic District. The primary structure is a contributing structure that dates back to 1915. This is also in for a certificate of appropriateness for the accessory structure of 432 square feet. Starting with the map from 1929. Property in question is highlighted with the green shading. Does face Branch Avenue. There is an alley that runs north and south behind it. You see the different relationship with the parcel size for this one compared to the other one. Also on this illustration, it indicates that it was a one-story house with a wraparound porch from the front all the way down the north side and around the rear. So it had a very lavish outdoor area that they probably used as their living room prior to air conditioning. This is looking at the roof line. You see the primary gable, and then you see the wraparound porch that still exists today. This is a portion of the porch. This is the front facade. The drive aisle is over here. See the pitch of the roof and then the knee brackets. This is looking down the driveway back towards the accessory structure. This is looking at the south elevation. And you can see the detail of the exposed rafter ends and the barge rafter. This is looking at the north elevation and how generous that porch is. This is that gable end that has some expression of fenestration with a vent above. And then you have the brackets that flank it. This is the abutting property to the south. So you see the request in context. This is the structure to the north and directly across the street. At this time, Ms. Peck will address the board again.
Hi, Joanne Peck with Historic Shed, back with another rectangle. It's a garage. Okay, so this house has some really nice architectural features, and they're fairly simple and easy to replicate, and that's basically what we plan to do. There is an alley behind this house, but the alley actually has a retaining wall. It's not an alley that you could drive in off of in order to park in the garage easily. We're proposing keeping it 16 feet off the back property line, 5 feet off the side property line. It ends up not exactly lining up with the driveway for where it is, but we would have to move it over too far. So basically, the driveway is going to have to flare out in order to, but we can work with what's existing. It's a minimal amount of extra concrete. It's a simple garage. We're planning on doing 10-foot walls, so it's taller than normal garage. But that's when you look at the house itself, it also has that same pretty large gap above the openings to where the roof line is. Obviously, concrete slab foundation. The walls have Dolly Varden siding. What we're proposing to do is, it's very, very hard and expensive to get that exact same siding nowadays. So what we typically do is we use a smart side siding. We get the 8-inch, we cut it in half, and we lap it. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like on a job we've done recently with that. We would replicate the 4 brackets from the house and place them similarly, but we're not going to bother on the back side. People won't see it. It's not the primary facade. Metal roof, 5V crimp. Like before, exposed rafter tails, same roof sheathing detail with the board sheathing. Simple cut rafters. I know he showed you those really nice rafter tails on the main house, but we are not planning on replicating that on this. Accessory structures are usually a step-down version from the main house in areas like this. Overhead garage door, 9-foot wide. I'll show you examples of the standard garage doors we use. And then just a simple batten door on the side, same detail as what I showed you before. And gable vent. We talked similar design. It would be proportional to the one that's on the main house. Just so you can see, it's very difficult to take a good photo of the backyard the way it is right now, but there is a non-contributing, non-historic, basically shed in the location that we'll be going. And just so you kind of get a sense, there's a fair amount of landscaping back there. I had shown you this door detail. We would again be building that similar kind of door. And if you look at the siding on this, that is what the example of the replicating the Dolly Varden. It just happens to be skinny lap siding instead. And the garage doors we typically use, this one a lot of people are familiar with because it's very prominent in the street, but it's a CHI overhead door. I like the window details. It is a steel door. It's got a carriage house overlay. It's, it's got a good look to it. Here's another example of it in use, and I think it's, I'm pretty picky about the garage doors, so it's the one I can live with. And then I know you're going to ask about lighting, and I really did not talk to my client about lighting, but this is what I keep drawing on all my drawings for him, and he hasn't said he doesn't like it, so I would suggest something along those lines, a kind of barn light, flanking each side of the garage door as the lighting. Okay, I think that's everything.
Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Seminole Heights design guidelines. The height of the accessory structure is indicated at 17 feet. So she's in discussion with land development now to go through the design exception or the route that they feel that is fitting. So I know she's got a call into them, and there's been some discussion back and forth. And, Joanne hit a good point that the accessory structures were really watered down version of the primary structure. This one here is more of a glorified shed. We talked about maybe the implementation of a window, but the exposure that faces the rear yard has the door, so it kind of breaks up the massing. The other elevation is close to some fencing there, and then you have the alley in the rear. So if the board wants some discussion of a placement of a window, but if this is more of a structure with some substance, I think breaking up the massing would be acceptable, but I don't think this rises to the level. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing to any public comment. Seeing none. The commissioners will ask any questions starting on my left.
This is intended to be a working garage, correct?
I'm sorry?
This is intended to be a working garage, correct?
Yes.
A car goes in and out. Can you talk about why the doors don't go to the ground for the garage doors themselves? They seem to stop at the 6-inch sill on the front elevation. Maybe that's a drawing mistake. Unless you're intending a ramp.
No, well, the driveway would end up having to slope up to it, but the concrete slab has to be 8 inches above grade, the finish grade, in order to meet code. So that's,
Oh, you have an elevation issue.
well, no, that's just code requires your concrete slab. You can't start your wood framing.
No, I
closer.
understand that. I understand that. I have that on my garage, but you're saying that your slab also goes to the top of the concrete, 6-inch concrete curbing that you're putting in place.
There's,
No,
no, it's just,
you're doing a turn footing? Is that what you're doing? I'm sorry, I just need to look at the wall section.
there's an
Yeah.
between the top of the slab and.
I apologize, I thought you were doing a curb and that the slab was lower. So I apologize. So in terms of the driveway, that follows up to my site question in terms of the driveway. If we could go back to the right side of the board. Okay. The driveway doesn't seem to have any notes as to modifying the driveway. Is there scope
There
in this
will be
project
some-
in terms of realignment and grading?
It's not that easy right now where things are to figure out where the concrete is and stops and where it's going to run into this. I drew a line. That's the full extent of the work on where the concrete would go. But yes, it's going to need to have at least, a certain segment either extended or expanded a little.
Okay.
Depending on where it
And
ends
then
up.
in terms of materiality, what would that material be for any new pavement,
Concrete.
once you figure that out?
It would just continue the concrete. This is concrete.
Could you show an image of that? I don't think we had a very good image of what the existing condition is in front of that. Do you have an image of what that looks like?
It's very hard to photograph. I don't know if this helps at all, the survey. This is it says garage on there, but it's definitely not a garage. And you can see that it's got concrete drive that goes straight up. There's a kind of bunch of concrete things going on in that backyard.
Yeah, I'm gonna ignore all that. Can you show an image of the front of the house? I think you had an image from the street.
Ron, do you have a better one with the driveway? Mine doesn't show the driveway.
Oh, okay. So that's it to the left then, Ron? It appears to be sort of a white, oh, okay, here we go.
This is the front, and then as you go to the south, then this is the access.
Okay. All right, that seems to be fairly new or within recent history, right? Okay. All right, that's it for my questions. Thank you.
So there's like a carport there, correct, that you drive, will that remain, or is that going to go?
Once the garage is in and they do some of the other work, the hope is it will go away,
Okay.
but it's useful right now.
Okay, and that existing structure that's there now is going to be gone, and that's where you're building the new garage?
Yes.
Okay, I understand. The garage door, what color is that gonna be?
So we Yeah, so we can't ask colors or,
Okay, sorry. That's all for my questions.
Is the applicant open to having a window on the north elevation of the shed?
Which is what side? The alley side?
Well, Ron suggested, the interior, facing the interior versus the alley, because you said there's a wall in the alley or something, and it's not
There's
very
a
active.
Retaining wall, like that
Okay.
changes level in the backyard.
I mean, I would think the side that Ron mentioned would be the best, which is an
Well,
interior.
Neil just said yes. I know his wife had already said no. They preferred not to have a window.
Yeah.
So if they absolutely have to, they will put in a window, but it's their preference not to have one.
Okay, and I'll see what other board members
I have a
think,
question
too.
for legal, real quick, or counsel. I don't believe he was sworn in. Do we need him to be sworn in or no?
If he's gonna testify directly to the commission, he
Okay.
would, but it appears that his answers are being confirmed by the applicant's
Okay.
agent, so.
And then also, is the roof material going to be the same as the house as well?
Yes, the
Okay.
5B crimp metal.
Great, that's all. Thank you.
I have no question at this time.
The only question that I have is, so we're doing the brackets on the front facing the road. I understand that the brackets on the back side were left off just because you wouldn't see them from the road. Was there any discussions or kind of conversations with having those put on the back? Because it looks like the back of the house has them as well. So just wasn't sure if there was any conversation
It
with
was
that.
just, it's mostly a cost savings. Why install 4 more brackets? And
Okay.
you don't get to see them in your own yard.
Okay. I have no additional questions. Okay, anyone else?
Are reserved for comment.
Okay. At this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I'm good.
Okay. At this point, we'll close the public hearing and the commissioners will discuss the case. Let's start on my right.
Brackets. I personally would like to see brackets on the backside of this building that abuts the alley. To me, although there is no access from the alley is a public way in this neighborhood and is used. And just as much as it becomes a visual element on the backside of the existing dwelling, I think it would be well to have that same level of coordination at this visual side for this accessory structure. Remember, this is a fairly, beefy, tall building, and it's not meant to be hiding behind a fence. That roof line will be visible from the back alley, if not from the rear neighbor as well.
I concur with the brackets, and I would like to see the window that Ron suggested. Thank you.
I agree with the brackets as well. The window, I'm impartial too. And that's about it.
Brackets, yes. I actually think the window placement needs to be the other gable end facing the alley. Why? Fences are impermanent. They come and go. And historically, they wouldn't have had fences to the rear. It seems that this is a retaining wall that was being discussed earlier. From the imagery we have in our packet that staff presented tonight, it appears there is a wood fence that is approximately 6 feet tall. And the house does achieve great height beyond that, with the intention on this particular accessory structure to be quite a bit taller than is what would be historically precedent for most historic accessory structures, even garages. I think it's important to think about your engagement with the alley in communities such as Seminole Heights, where alleyways are really kind of celebrated and more activated in keeping with the historic nature of these types of developments. We must be reminded of the experience of being in those alleyways. They're not just for servicing anymore. They are often used for strolling through your neighborhood, connecting with your neighbors. that kind of thing. So I do think a window is warranted, but I don't think it's facing interior to the lot. I think it's something that should be considered in terms of the alley. And the brackets, I concur. I think, did I say that already? I just think when you look at the composition from the alley view, the two images that we have of the main street elevation and then the alley elevation, it just seems to warrant that, actually require that, just because of the nature of the existing historic property. What else was there? And then in terms of anything that we might add as a condition of approval, staff, they must work, I think they need to work with staff in terms of the revisions that are going to be required at the driveway as it aligns with the new garage doors and the foundation slab. That's pretty much it.
I would also tend to agree with the brackets on the rear, and then not to kind of go again, but the window for me, either on the back, the rear, or none whatsoever, I could kind of go hit either way. So I think I'm going to allow my fellow commissioners kind of decide if one needs to be added and then where.
Well,
based on-
historically, you would want light in your garages because, I mean, you're working on your car, you're working on other things. I mean,
There would be at
it's-
least one window in a
And
historic.
if you're not putting it in your garage doors themselves, I mean, there might be lights on the garage doors, so that might take away some of that concern of daylighting the space. But you do see them on gable ends of garages historically.
So would you place it kind of similar to under the vent where it is in the house?
On center line, center wall.
More than often or not, it would be symmetrical. Yeah.
So,
And I totally agree with your comment about the alley in the rear. I was kind of going with staff's recommendation, but I could go either way. I just think it's necessary to have a window. In addition to what, the garage door will be beautiful though, so I do appreciate that, so. Okay.
any additional comments or questions?
No addition from my part.
Nothing.
All right, so we have the, working with staff for the extension of the driveway, the addition of the brackets onto the rear, the addition of the window on the rear, and then also the design exception for the height approval. Anything else? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 2066 for the property located at 5106 North Branch Avenue with the following conditions: that brackets be added to the rear elevation, that the applicant coordinates with staff on the driveway connection into the garage, a window added to the rear and coordinate with staff on the positioning of that, and the height exception, design exception to be considered.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.